playing another tournament today with my super pared down bag, which practiced with Joel. You guys saw that last video. Everything feels comfortable. 2 rounds, 1 day. So it's gonna be a busy little day today. It's starting out pretty cold. It's like 30 degrees right now. It should warm up in the mid 40s by the time this first round's done. Then we'll have lunch, then a second round. I'm gonna try to get every shot, and I have some good like mental cueing for today. I like analyzing my shots, but I think I do it too much like in the moment, just because for videos that's what I do. So I'm used to doing that. I'll throw a shot and then I'll analyze it. Versus in tournaments, just kind of clearing the head. And I actually have 3 things that I took away from an audiobook I was listening to on the way here, which is called Golf is Not a Game of Perfect by Bob Rotella, who's pretty well known like golf psychologist. There are 3 things that, as I was listening to the audiobook on the way here today, I really took into account. Took some voice notes on my phone that were quotes from the book, Golf is Not a Game of Perfect, which I think the audiobook, I don't know if it's supposed to be on YouTube for free, but it is on YouTube for free, so I just listened to it on like 1.5 speed on the way up here. While striving for perfection is essential, demanding perfection of yourself on the course is deadly. This was said by a golf pro that he had worked with. Of course, when I'm trying to get better at disc golf, I'm trying to strive for perfection. I'm trying to be as good as I can be, even on the course today. Like, I would love to go perfect. I'm striving for that perfection, but demanding that of myself is deadly, because the second it goes awry, which I feel in myself, the second I don't shoot at my expectations, which I shouldn't even have, like I should have desires, but not expectations, then I start to get in my own head and get in my own way because of that. The second thing was more of a concept that I took from something that he said about like when people like hit into the woods, they often realize that they need another level of focus and calmness. And those 2 things being tantamount, or even just kind of put in the same sentence together, wasn't something I thought of much before. And so I kind of wrote down that calmness, well, I spoke down, I was driving. A calmness is a sign and the prerequisite for focus. And I think this is interesting because it's twofold. In my last tournament video, you might have seen I climbed a tree like a silly little dude to get someone's disc back, and my heart rate got up. And then that was something that was a true thing that was happening, but I likely used it as a bit of an excuse. I was trying to get my heart rate down, but like really good athletes, basketball players, soccer players, they are able, football, if we're doing it legit, and football, American football, but they are able to be calm even when their heart rates are very high. Not that in disc golf you should ever really have your heart rate high, but it's going to get there if you're stressed or if you have a big moment. And so calmness being a sign of focus, meaning, and a prerequisite for focus, was something that's kind of interesting, where if I am getting a little nervous, I can calm myself down, whether my heart rate stays high or not. It's more like a mental state of being calm and being able to then focus. You can't focus without being calm, because then, at least for me, my brain just gets all scattered. And the third thing is, if you must have expectations about results, expect to make mistakes. This is a quote that kind of hit me hard, because I think I oftentimes overdo my expectations that I have for myself, and will end up making more mistakes instead of expecting that I'm going to make mistakes, because golf is not a game of perfect, like he says. That being said, I'm gonna go get myself signed up, and then a little bit of warming up. And my distance drives were feeling terrible the other day, so really all I'm gonna do is putt, throw a couple of short shots, but that feels pretty good in general right now, and then some big drives, and just see how that goes. Ooh, I also can bring my coffee out. Let's go. Alrighty, wind's a little out, and it's a bit of throw time. Honestly, what I think I don't need to like throw too much, because I think I know what my issue is. I'm just staying really long and trying to be really fast, and then throwing from here, instead of just like my shorter shots staying really compact and rotational. I think that's when I do the best. And that too, okay. I love that new Sphinx, man. That's such a smoothie. Much better. Okay, here, catch my putter. Twice hurts luck. Gotta. He's good for it.
Hold on, Rocky, you need an outfielder, just let me know.
All right, 10 minutes till my tee time. I gotta walk maybe about 8 of those, so I really gotta get over there. I do think these two discs have a little too much overlap, so this Emperor, not gonna make it. Yeah, very similar to this disc, maybe a touch more overstable, and it feels maybe ever so slightly better. But I threw it in the wind one time today, and it flew more understable than I expected, and I lost confidence in it, so. Okay, that disc might be superfluous. Having thrown it only a couple times, other than that, I'm not about to force it into the bag, so we'll take it out. A lot of overstability, pretty straight, super straight, understable. Not a lot of driver holes. if I can capitalize on all of them. I'm getting eagles on some of them, so. Whoopsies, that was on there. Hopefully you heard that. So I hustled out to hole 13, a 296-foot par 3 to get started. There was a little bit of wind blowing out this morning, but I was checking my chalk bag, which I was able to do basically every hole, and it was a little left to right. So I was kind of debating between the bullet or the finish line sector, the straight mid-range, and because it was 300 feet, either of them could do it, but I wanted the extra speed of the mid-range, which turned out to be both a good and a bad choice. I threw the shot, and basically immediately it had turned into a headwind. So as I was walking off the tee pad, I checked the wind again, and it had just switched on me. So the sector flipped a little, probably also a little bit of a soft shot, but I still had some sort of putt into a straight headwind, and I gave it a good bit. I'm pretty happy with it. It also gave me a decent comebacker, so I had to make a decent putt to get started. Luckily, I'm able to make that, and the putt's feeling good. It was online from the 60-footer, dead center from the comeback putt. Hole 14 also had a lot of wind, and I decided on a play that I did not practice at all. There's a little bit of a gap in the trees on the right side of the basket, and I decided to throw my Scepter. Scepter is my 9-speed, which is like a Firebird, on a wide hyzer. Got the wind bounces and plays that it needed, and end up skipping up to parked for an easy birdie. Really stoked on that start, 1 down through 2. I know that it's going to require a really low score today, but I'm trying not to have that in my head at all, and I'm normally pretty good about that for the first rounds. Hole 15 was our third hole, 286-foot par 3, really tricky line, and I throw a fine shot with AB's new Sagara, but it doesn't really get a lot of a skip. I have a long putt, and my putter feels good, so I decided to give it a bid. Not a bad bid, but just a little too nose up, so it stabled out early. I could have either punched it on a little more Anheuser or got that nose down a little, and I think it would have been better, but the putt's still feeling good. Hole 16, 261 feet, right to left wind. So I'm debating on throwing a forehand, which I never practiced. I only got the 1 round in with Joel. Maybe I could have thrown a second practice shot on some of the holes, but I didn't feel like I need it. Even in this wind, I think a straight putter definitely works. And instead of going with the bullet, I actually went with my slightly beaten PA3. This disc needs a lot more working in my bag, but I really like the slot because the base plastic putter is something that I didn't have in my bag last year for throwing, but I really like having for upshots as well as short tee shots like this. I wind up a little short. But the putter's been feeling good. Just wasn't able to connect from circle 2. So we'll go par, birdie, par, par. Hole 17 is probably the toughest birdie on the course, especially because hole 19, which we played as a par 3 in the practice round, is actually a par 4. It's 499 feet. So this one's about 420, but I ranged it closer to 390 to 400-ish. And I'm deciding to throw my Sphinx. This is the new 2025 run. I actually have my box of them coming in now, so they should be coming out pretty soon. This just has the Texas Swing stamp on it. And I throw a pretty good shot, just a little low. Any bit higher or even a slightly more overstable disc to get a better ground play, more skip, could have been nice. But I give myself a putt from just outside of circle 2. And unfortunately off the top of the basket. So all my bids have felt good. Basically every putt has felt pretty good. I'm trying not to do too much analyzing. I think I talked about this at the beginning of the round, but I'm trying to stay out of my head and out of my own way. I know that there's going to be some rust, and especially in learning all these new discs and getting back into the swing of tournaments, I just don't need to be in my head that much. So I'm pretty happy with how I've played, even though I'm 1 down through 5 holes, which is objectively a pretty bad start if I'm trying to take it down. The next hole is a 283-foot par 3. A couple shots in front of me I watched hit the log that is kind of guarding the basket. I decided to throw my bullet here, just aiming to throw a dead flat shot because I knew it would turn a little bit and then fade a little bit. But instead I put a touch of turn on it. And so I give myself another bid at a putt from circle 2. Unfortunately, I'm not able to connect, and this is by far my worst bid of the day. I just ended up kind of flopping my wrist at it at the end instead of staying strong through the whole motion of the putt. But not letting that get in my head, I actually really like my mental game so far. And hole 19 is the par 4 now, which I thought was a par 3 because last year I believe we played it as a par 3. It's 499 feet, and there's a lot of right to left wind. So I decided to throw my neutral Emperor, thinking that I could hyzer flip it and have the wind help it at the end. but instead I just put way too much hyzer on it, and the wind takes it pretty early, ends up pushing it pretty far left, and I have a decently difficult up and down. It's kind of tricky because there's a tree that's maybe 60 feet from the basket and short right of it, which is in the perfect hyzer line to throw an approach disc. I do decide to throw my chicane and just trust myself to leave it high and have good touch so that it would like fall out of the sky rather than fade out of the sky hard. And it does it, leaving myself with a 20-footer. All the putts have felt good, and I haven't given myself a circle one look for birdie yet outside of the park job on 14. But luckily the putt stays strong and I'm able to cash it. Hole 20, I take my cap wrap out. There's a right to left wind, very similar to the last couple holes, and it's actually a little straighter than I anticipated. This is definitely where I wish I had the new 2025 cap wrap, which just released. Snag that on Infinite if you want. I actually just ordered a couple myself from my allotment because it's so good, and I definitely need the extra overstability, or I guess I want it. Was able to make do with this shot, obviously. Left myself with a 20-footer that I'm able to make. And then hole 21, it's 282 feet with a hurting wind. But the good thing about a wind that is left to right, and I want to throw something overstable in it, is that it's going to stay pretty straight, and I can throw it pretty hard because the wind's going to take some speed out of it. So I was able to throw a really comfortable speed, right around 75-85% with my chicane, and end up putting it right under the basket. Hole 22, shortest hole I've played in a long time in a tournament, 169 feet according to UDisc. Nice. I throw that beat up PA3 again, thinking kind of ace run, but mostly just get it close, just have a little touch, which luckily I do, and I'm able to convert for a birdie. Hole 23. So I ended up throwing a very good shot. It just is 35-40 feet short, but the putt has felt pretty good. And luckily, I'm able to make one from circle 2 and keep the birdie streak alive. So 5 in a row after going 1 down through the first 5 holes is pretty solid. And it leads us into a very tricky hole. One of the harder birdies on the course as well. You have a left gap that you could throw a forehand, a right gap that you could throw a backhand. My forehand's been feeling much better, especially with this very neutral Garrett Gurthie S-Blend Emperor that's kind of seasoned in to be my perfect distance control sidearm, and it's a not super finicky line. So I was able to pipe it down that left gap, and I really thought I put that in the basket. It ended up just being a little long, and I thought I gave myself a 45, 50-footer, but it was just inside the circle. Unfortunately, I had a really crappy lie just because of all this brush. You're not really able to back into the brush intentionally, like stomp around in it, so I needed to be a little ginger with my stance so that I wasn't breaking any of the rules, and end up clanging it off the band. Not a bad bid, but my first circle 1 miss of the round. Not too disappointing to end the birdie streak there, especially after such a good shot. And it moves us into a very birdieable par 4, 447 feet. This wind, though, is a right to left, and I haven't really practiced an up the middle shot or a layup shot, so I just kind of go with my full send shot, even though I know the wind is pretty bad for it. And when that happens, and you don't use your brain very much, you end up with a pretty bad result. So I am 230 feet out still. So I got about 200 feet with my max distance driver, so that's pretty clutch. And I have this tunnel shot, and I'm thinking, oh, if you're good at disc golf, you got to be able to execute this shot. It should be pretty easy. I have my beat in PA3, but there's that right to left wind. So I'm thinking, okay, throw a touch of hyzer, flip it up. And I don't know why a couple times this round I thought throwing a touch of hyzer, which for me is like 10-15 degrees, a decent amount of hyzer, is a good idea in a right to left wind where you're immediately exposing the flight plate. And that exposed my shot, as you see. Was not very good. Ended up kicking a little short. Wanted to give it a long bid, but another awkward stance because of the brush that was there. So I'm able to tap in for a par. Unfortunate on a hole that I absolutely want to get every time and think I should. I mean, I eagled that hole last year, so a little worse feeling. But even though I'm disappointed, I didn't really let that come into my next shot. And on hole 26, it's a 520-foot par 4. Have a solid drive, and it kind of leaves me a little bit of no man's land. I needed to be about 20 to 30 feet righter if I wanted a really easy access to the green. But this is also where there's a right to left wind, and if I throw an overstable and hyzer forehand, it could ride the wind but get stable against it and kind of hit one of the 2 gaps that are going to the basket. Instead, I try to kind of go around the outside and end up in this massive tree cluster. Give it a really good bid from 35-ish feet. Just clanks off the left side chains. Could have popped it a little more and maybe made it, but I just have a 10-foot tap in. Wait, why did the score change? Oh no! Oh, do I have to? I have to show you this. I'm sorry. This is what happens when you lose focus, and why you always need to always focus every time. It's 10-footers aren't gimmies if you don't focus in the wind. I don't know why I'm lingering here so long. That was so embarrassing. But we'll move on to hole 27, 277 feet. There's that same tail right to left wind. So I throw my bullet up the right side, which normally isn't a play because there's a lot of foliage, but everything's pretty dead right now. So I end up with a great shot, able to get a birdie. Hole 9, another simple shot, little headwind, throw my chicane into it. Great result. Thought I pulled it right into this tree. Luckily just parked it. Easy birdie. And then we get into a stretch of a couple of par 4s. I'm not looking at scores. It's not massively important to me this first round, and I know I have an okay round together. The bogey is like nagging at me, but not as I'm throwing my shots. It's more just like, man, how could you do that? That's insane. And so I step onto this tee pad knowing that I can get 2 strokes here. It's 515-foot par 4. We don't have a terrible wind. It's a pretty straight left to right. But my distance shots felt terrible on Thursday when I practiced with Joel. Wasn't able to get out and really make him feel good. But just because I haven't felt like those have been good coming up to this shot doesn't mean I can't throw a good shot now. And so on the tee pad, I end up throwing a pretty decent shot. It gets a little bit of a bad skip towards the end, but I still give myself some sort of look for the eagle. And out of my hand, I thought this putt was in. For all of about like a quarter of a second. I think I put it on the right line. It's a little high. You hit a tree. And now I have a 20-footer to save birdie on this hole that's like, you should never not birdie this hole. But I felt that way about hole 25 as well. Luckily, I'm able to focus up, take my time, and make this putt. And putting is really feeling like a strength for me at this point. And then we have another eagleable par 4. I think this one ranges closer to 470 to 490, even though they call it 502. And so I take that same straight Emperor and end up pulling it a little bit right. Gets somewhat lucky to go through that tree. I was trying to go fully inside of that tree that I went on the right side of, and it slows it down a lot and gives me a 70-footer. But I had a pretty not great stance, unfortunately, and not able to give it a good bid, even though it's online. The power generation wasn't quite there, so I have a tap in for the birdie. Last hole, hole 12, 370 feet, and I'm debating between the Sphinx, which I did in the practice round, and the Sector, which is that straight mid-range, because we have a tailwind with a little right to left. And so that same shot where, hey, I'm going to throw it on a little hyzer and it's going to flip up, like I did the 2 other times this round already, which I'm now just realizing, which is a good sign because that wasn't in my head on the tee pad. I wasn't letting past shots influence my decision making. I throw it on a touch of hyzer. It stables out early instead of throwing it flat and letting it glide through the gap. I think it would have been perfect if I threw it even a little righter or just a little flatter, but it just goes flat, fades a little, and have to pitch up with my chicane from the knees to get a par. Round 1 just finished up. Ended at 9 down, lots of par 4s. The round didn't feel great, but it didn't feel bad at all. My focus was there. I felt like I was giving myself grace. I'm not quite throwing as hard as maybe I can, so maybe next round I'll push it a little on those 2 par 4s, because I think I'm probably going to start on one of them, because I shot 9, which I think is chase card. Let me see where that has me at. My guess is, because Joel shot 14 and a couple other people shot 12s, my guess is I'm 8th. Right now, I'm probably 980 round or something like that. Oh wait, that's not me. Okay, 990, not terrible, kind of right on with the rating as it stands. Silly little bogey, could have got me to my 1,000 rated round. It's not crazy important. My round ratings have been not ideal these last couple events, and this one was better than those other events, so that's a win. The ratings, not quite super important to me this year. I'm basically into everything I want to get into, except for the World Championships and Turku, which they come, or at least Turku, I'm able to sign up before the waitlist or before the next ratings update, and my rating will probably fluctuate right around where it is because I'll have a bunch of pretty bad rounds dropping off and some good ones coming on. So ratings aren't super important to me this year. It's more about getting the experience. My putt felt really good today. Had a lot of good bids from deep. They kind of started getting worse and worse as the day went on, but made basically everything. I hit band from 30 feet on that really hard one that I flashed the chains from the forehand shot, and then I missed that sitter, just didn't go through my routine. Even when I'm up close, basically I just like fluff my chalk bag, see where the wind's going, and that kind of puts me in the mindset to lock in on a chain. Didn't do that, ended up paying the price, which it's really silly kind of bogey to take, but not the end of the world. Gonna grab some food, rear warm up, and just kind of rest up. Should be starting on hole 2, which is the first of the 2 easy par 4s on the front. Hole 10 is what it actually is. And I'm 5 back of Joel, so I'll probably have to shoot a pretty hot round to take it down. I'm not super focused on that. I know if I play my game, like my game plan doesn't change on any holes based on what the leaders are doing. And if I play my game, I have the opportunity to shoot really good. We'll see kind of where it shakes out. Well, I think you gotta be in 3 videos in a row.
Hey! There we go.
Round 2, chase card. Getting started on the first of the Eagle Wall par 4s, hole 10, 515 feet. Put a pretty good move on it the first round. This round though, there's a right to left. The wind switched, and I thought it was going to be consistent, but it was really only for like a couple. Actually, it was pretty consistent. The wind was swirly, so it was this way for a couple holes, and then it wasn't for a couple holes, and it was. We don't need to worry about it that much. I don't know why I was so into it. As I was talking, you saw the shot though. Stayed turned over into the wind. I threw the same shot instead of throwing anhyzers because throwing hard anhyzers has not been comfortable. Honestly, throwing hard has not been comfortable. Even last round when I threw that shot, I feel like I'm just taking something off of everything. So I need to get into the field and just like rip everything hard, or film a video where I only do max distance drives. That would be pretty sweet. Like I throw the slowest thing possible and just throw as hard as I can, because I don't know if I've actually tried to throw as hard as I can for a long time. Not ideal. As I've been saying that, you saw the first birdie and a pretty solid drive on hole 2, even though I hit that tree. And it leaves me at 35 feet for eagle. Definitely a great way to get started on this round, since I was 5 back to get started. Unfortunately, the putter is not feeling as hot as it was in the first round, and I airballed it and gave myself a 20-foot comebacker. But I'm able to make that. Not crazy confident, but that putt felt better. So moving on to hole 12, I feel good about my putt, and I'm changing the game plan. I think sector could still be good, but again, I'm not really confident throwing hard or like throwing super committed. I'm really living in that 65 to 80% range, and that's perfect on the lower end for my new 2025 Sphinx, which I throw, and more good things are being said about this disc.
Oh yeah, this looks really good. Go in. Nice shot. Great toss.
Really like that shot in that tail right to left, and it skips under the basket to about 20 feet. Headwind putt, but the putter's been feeling pretty good, so I just aim dead center a little low and put it over the basket. I think what I did there, I noticed as I was thinking through the rest of the round, is I got the nose a touch up. If I'm really slightly uncommitted on my putt, I tend to pop the nose up instead of popping the disc at the basket, and then I get that result. And the tailwind putt, I didn't check the wind. I didn't go through my routine like I didn't on the only like real circle 1 putt that I missed last round from 10 feet, and I end up not putting it high enough. Ends up being an okay putt, but a little undercommitted, and I tap in a bogey. So 1 down through 3 after being inside the circle on every single hole and giving myself an eagle look is not necessarily what I want, and I'm pretty frustrated going to the next hole, but I do a good job of calming myself down to throw the next shot. Hole 13, I decided to not throw the sector, but instead the bullet. The wind is very similar to the first wind that I thought it was, so the left to right. And I ended up throwing a fine shot. I just undercommit it and ended up hitting it short, leaving myself 35 to 40 feet for birdie. And I have a helping wind on this putt, kind of. It's a little bit of a right to left, just aiming a little bit right and throw my undercommitted putt, pop the nose up, and I have another 20-footer as a comebacker. Take the time, center myself, make the putt, and I feel really good about that. I know that there's not really an opportunity to win with Joel playing super hot. If I birdie out, maybe it's there, and that's of course what I'm trying to do, but I'm trying to not think about scores, even though my second rounds are typically significantly worse than my first rounds, and I think it's because of the scoring aspect. So that's probably going to be a goal of mine for some future tournaments, just to play a better second round than a first round, or at least like on par, because they're always pretty significantly worse. And I know that I can still save that for this round because there's so many holes left. Hole 15, our card played this so well. I don't understand exactly how. Very tricky hole, very specific line, which is there's like a tree where you have to get a little lucky around it. I decided to throw a little higher with the cigar than I did the first round, and it ended up being the perfect choice. A little bit of a straight skip, 18 to 22 foot putt for birdie. Able to cash that one as well. Hole 16, I make the correction-ish. Instead of throwing the PA3, I decide to throw the bullet. And ends up being all right. We do have the right to left, and so I think just throw it flat, it'll drift against it and be fine. I put a little turn on it though, so it gets very lucky through some trees, and I have another 20-foot putt, which I'm able to make. Hole 17, I step up to, and there's a little bit of a different wind. I also knew that I wanted a little more ground play, so instead of the Sphinx, I throw my Roman, which is like a PD mold, little overstable 10-speed, and I throw a pretty good line, just not a good height. And I leave myself about 10 feet further than the first round. Good height in the headwind this time, and just sail it to the right. Able to make the comebacker though, so par is not bad on that hole. That's a very difficult birdie. Hole 18, 283 feet. We have a head left to right this time, and I make the correction over last round, throwing the bullet, and I just throw my chicane. I realize, hey, you can throw anhyzers through gaps. It's something that, similar to the hard anhyzers, the gap hitting anhyzers, not very comfortable with it. It's going to require some field work, and I'll get it figured out, and I'll share with you guys how I figure it out when I do. But I throw a pretty good shot with the chicane, but it's a touch nose up and leaves me about 28 feet, but I'm able to step up and make that putt and get myself another birdie. So I'm feeling pretty good about the bounce back of this round so far. Hole 19, that par 4, I decided to change my game plan from the first round, where I was throwing my neutral to slightly understable Garrett Girthy Emperor, and I throw my slightly overstable red S-Blend Emperor on that same shot that I just made the mistake of 2 holes ago, that slight amount of anhyzer pretty hard through the gap. And I make the same mistake that I made 2 holes ago as well, just right into the ground. So very consistent, but not consistently how I want to be. I decided to throw an upshot with the right to left wind with my beat in PA3, and end up just aiming maybe 20 feet to right. Ends up getting through a tree. I think I've missed recording this putt, but not able to make that, unfortunately. And I tap in a par after missing just edge of circle putt. Hole 20, 257. Instead of throwing the cap wrap, I throw my chicane. It's not a different wind or a better wind. I just decided to change the game plan for my park job, and I don't exactly know why. And I end up throwing a similar shot to what I did the first round, but with a different disc, and it is way short and right. I give it a decent bid, but I leave myself a 20-foot comebacker, which I feel relatively confident in. It's inside the circle. I feel good about my putt. Really good stroke, really good putt. But this is also the basket, if you watch that practice round with Joel, that he had a spit out slightly high, dead center, and I think mine was like middle, boom, in, out, gross, bogey. So that's a little frustrating. Hole 21, trying to get some momentum back. I end up throwing my chicane again, similar shot, but at this point I do feel a little bit of frustration building, and I have some books that I'm reading and working on. I actually read one the next day called The Dip by Seth Godin, really good. I might talk about it on my second channel, my takeaways for disc golf, but it helped me to kind of think through this round and my play right now, which is very rusty, and this is a 28-footer that I still have here, which luckily I'm able to make. So I feel pretty good about that putt because it was a right to left. That was one of my best putts of the day, especially from inside the circle. Hole 22, 169, ripping right to left wind at this point, and I decided to throw my chicane. I decided to just pop it up the middle, but unfortunately the popping was a little more powerful than I thought the popping would be, and I put it to 50-something feet. I end up putting a pretty good putt on it, and I keep it low, I keep it driven, but it's just a little too low. So it's off the cage, and a par on that hole, not ideal. Hole 23, 276, we have that same ripping right to left, and I end up juicing it about 35-40 feet long. Now I have a left to right wind coming back, so I decided to just aim a little bit high. Feel pretty good about the stroke, very committed, maybe a little hard, a little poppy if anything in the wind, but it clangs off the band, and I'm able to make par. I'm not too mad about that putt. I like the bids that I'm giving, especially from mid to deep circle 2 during these rounds. And it leads us again to the hole that I almost ace, hole 24. Felt really good about that first shot. There's a 3-card backup, so a decent bit of time to watch some coverage because it was Sunday, and MPO had just teed off in Austin, and then step up and throw my shot. I felt like I was throwing a pretty similar shot to the first round. My guess is I got the nose a touch up and it just lifted into the branch. It felt like it came out of my hand similar, but it kicks me to 230 feet left to the basket, and I just throw my chicane up that right side gap, have a pretty easy par, left myself maybe 15 feet to tap in, gotta keep it outside the bullseye so I can pad those circle 1x stats, you know what I mean? Hole 25, par 4, really disappointed in my first round performance getting a par on this hole, but there's also a very difficult wind here. It seems like it's swirling and I don't exactly know what it's going to do above the trees, so I'm not trying any sort of big route. I decided to go up the middle because if you hit the line well on a slight anhyzer, it's 440 feet. You could still absolutely get an eagle look throwing kind of a low laser. And so I throw that red emperor, very similar to the shot I was trying to throw on the most recent par 4, and I do the same exact mistake. And so at this point, luckily there's not any more of those shots that I need to throw during this round, but it's a little frustrating that I've made the same mistake 3 times and felt good about the shots, and no, it's just mechanics. Like, my mentality was good, the angle was good, something in my throw is just making it go into the ground. And I think I know what it is. I'm not going to talk about it too much here because I need to figure it out and really diagnose it, because it could be something that causes something else that I need to fix before I can finally make sure it's good. End up pitching up with my chicane. I thought it was a great shot, but there was a little right to left, exposed the flight plate, another mistake that I'm just now realizing I made a couple extra times this round, and it ends up pushing it out left. I'm a little frustrated stepping up to this putt, and I'm able to calm myself down like 85% of the way, which I feel pretty good about because I'm not just like, I'm pretty frustrated at this point. I mean, I'm like 3 or 4 pars in a row. These are birdie holes. I know I'm probably sitting close to the cash line now because I'm just playing so rusty, and I end up missing it a little right. It's still positives to take from how much I was able to like calm myself down, but I wasn't fully there to give it the best bid. Able to make the comeback putt, and playing that hole at par for the weekend is pretty disappointing for me, not gonna lie. Hole 26, 520 feet. I decided to just throw the big anhyzer. There's a big left to right wind, and I'd probably make a similar mistake of throwing my more understable driver instead of something a little more neutral that could have fought against the wind eventually. Instead, it just gets taken and rides way right. I probably have a little less than 200 feet in, but it's not really good. I thought there'd be an anhyzer line with a putter, but I decided to just throw my cap wrap up this little like smallish gap on a forehand so that it would fight against the wind and then just get taken by the wind towards the basket. I heard it got a good kick. I actually couldn't see the finish. I just knew out of my hand I liked it, and I hit the gap exactly how I wanted to, and it left me with a 15-foot putt for birdie, which I take my time, focus up on this basket, and make, luckily. So, not the end of the world. 2 holes to play. I haven't checked scores yet. I will check scores after this next hole because I know with my poor play and this being a birdie or die course, there's the potential that I need to ace run to try to stay in the cash. And the round's already bad enough that like if I ace run and need to take a par, not the end of the world. But if I birdie this hole, makes that a little bit easier. So 277 feet, I throw the same shot, just gets taken a little more by the wind, maybe throw it a touch more inside, and it ends up 40 feet instead of 15 to 20 feet, and with no line. I really try to find a way to make a putt. There's just so many little limbs. I end up trying to pitch a little forehand at it, a little too low, not ideal. Tap in, and I have some thoughts going into the final hole. Okay, definitely not been the best round at all. I feel like my second rounds are always worse than my first, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. I have next week off, and then I have a 2-round in a day again, which I'm excited about, and then the Pro Tour. So getting good experience, learning a lot, some unfortunate breaks and some unfortunate mistakes, but I think I'll get it figured out. I'm gonna see if I'm still in the cash. If I'm not, then I'm gonna try to ace this last hole. And currently, through 18, I am inside the cash, and if I have birdie, I can potentially move up a stroke. Unfortunate, man. Really, I have not shot rounds that are close to what I think I should be shooting. I feel like I'm shooting close to my... Blech. But it is what it is. I'll get it figured out. Just need a birdie on this last one. Move down a couple spots. I'm on the bubble right now. 2 strokes to the next. So acing would be futile. But I can try to... Man, looks like Joel's playing really well still. Looks like he'll probably take it down unless something crazy happens, and shouldn't on the last 2 that he has. Should probably get some more birdies. I'm 6 right now, let's get to 7. Still lose to myself in the first round by 2 strokes, but throw one last good shot. Good.
Nice.
Well, that's the 2 rounds. I'll figure it out. I think I'm gonna do some journaling and some working on it. I still just feel rusty. I think I can equate it to that. I haven't been able to put together great rounds. A lot of good holes, a lot of intermittent things, just not stringing stuff together for a long time. And I guess when my string breaks, I have a hard time bringing it back of like birdies, but not the end of the world. Sitting on last cash, 973 rated again-ish, so I guess I'm 970 rated now. I definitely feel better, but no 1,000 rated rounds in the last 4 rounds is pretty brutal. I'm used to having like one a tournament and one really good, one really bad, and I've just had a bunch of mediocre stuff. 3 quick things, one that I think you'll be intrigued about. First, let me know if you guys like this style where I actually went through and talked about my rounds and then put the footage over it. I think it was a better flow for me editing wise. Still took a very long time to put these 2 rounders together, but I really enjoyed it. Second, this was kind of a little bit of an experiment, these first 2 tournaments. These are my first 2 rounders of the year. Sorry, the neighbor's dog. Very untrained. But I wanted to see how much focus it would take for me, like if I do bring out this camera, this Sweet, it's a DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I wanted to see how much focus it would take for my rounds, because I've played some flex starts with less comfortable bag, and I feel like I'm better now, but I was playing worse. So the next event that I play, I'm not gonna film. Maybe later down the road, I'll try having a caddy. I talked a little bit about this, but my rating isn't super important to me this year. I'm already basically in everything that I want to be, and I'm trying to get experience and like test things out to see how I can be the best, both at creating content, but also as a pro. So, unfortunately, I don't think me filming my own rounds is going to work. I did it a little bit 2 years ago, and I wanted to try it again, and this was a more seamless way to do it, but not good for sanctioned stuff when I'm really working on, like, winning and being the best that I can be. So, don't think I'll be doing this sort of a setup again for these type of tournaments, maybe some unsanctioned stuff or just fun rounds, but a cool setup nonetheless that I'll still probably post about on my second channel, Banana Froth. Third, let's talk about the cash, baby. I am tracking the cash for the whole year in terms of how much I make in sanctioned play, just to see kind of what the plus minus is. And then at the end of the year, we'll talk about all the overall expenses. This is just tournament entry costs and fees, which are super stupid expensive, versus winnings. I've cashed in the majority of my events this year. I've won 2 flexes this year with pretty small payouts, but definitely solid. I mean, I made 3 times more of my money, but sitting on last cash these last 2 weeks, basically you get your entry fee back, but you still have to pay the fees. So I am down $4 and change for this event because I got exactly my entry fee back, and then I had to pay the $4 in fees to PayPal and to the PDGA, or Disc Golf Scene, which I think is owned by the PDGA. But this also last weekend was the Open at Austin, and I was initially planning to play that, and I dropped, but you don't get your fees back. You only get your entry fee back, and since the PayPal fees are based on a percentage of the overall cost, and the cost to play a Pro Tour event is $350, very freaking expensive. I paid like 15 bucks in fees for that, so I'm overall down about 15 bucks. I have a flex start on Thursday, which I will not be filming, just going and playing, getting more reps in, as many reps as I can. I feel better about my putt, I feel better about a lot, but my throwing just not ideal at all right now. I'm gonna really be working on that. Body feels good, putting feels good, mental feels good, just not all coming together. And I have better focus this year on how to bring it together, especially for the big events for me, which are gonna be in a month at Kansas City Wide Open, and then 2 months from now at the Northwest Disc Golf Championship, at Cascade Challenge, and the Go Through event at Kayak, and then maybe Worlds in Europe if I'm able to swing that. And getting my 2025 Sphinx, which I just got in hand today, will be a big part of that. That drops in 2 Fridays on April 5th. 3rd. It looks so good. I'm so excited to share. I'll be doing a lot of promo. Okay, I'll give you a sneak peek if you stayed this long. If you're 40 minutes into the video, I gotta give you a little sneak peek. Okay. And then I'll see you guys in the next one. Subscribe. Glow Halo. There's a bunch of different colors. I'll show you one of them. Proto Glow Halo Sphinx double foil. Okay, that's all that you get for now. See you soon.